What happens when a prince walks into late-night television, thinking his royal status grants him immunity from tough questions? In just 16 seconds of heated exchange, Prince Harry learned that even royalty cannot escape the consequences of their actions when they step into Greg Gutfeld's arena. Last night's explosive confrontation has sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, and you're about to witness every uncomfortable moment of this career-defining clash. The Fox News studio buzzed with anticipation as Prince Harry made his entrance, his security detail flanking him like he was walking into a state dinner rather than a comedy show. The audience applauded politely, but something felt different in the air. Greg Gutfeld, known for his razor-sharp wit and fearless approach to interviewing, sat behind his desk with that familiar smirk that has made politicians and celebrities squirm for years. "Your Royal Highness," Greg began, his voice carrying just enough sarcasm to make it clear this wouldn't be the softball interview Harry was expecting. "Welcome to the show. I have to say, it's not every day we get actual royalty in here. Though I suppose these days, that title comes with a few asterisks, doesn't it?" Harry's jaw tightened immediately. "I'm sorry, what exactly are you implying?" "Oh, nothing too serious," Greg replied, leaning back in his chair. "Just wondering if you still get the royal treatment when you're living in a Montecito mansion instead of Buckingham Palace. Different kind of castle, I suppose." The audience chuckled nervously. This was already going in a direction nobody had anticipated. Harry shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable with the line of questioning. "Greg, I came here tonight to discuss my charitable work and the important causes I'm supporting," Harry said, trying to regain control of the conversation. "I thought we could focus on positive change rather than tabloid nonsense." "Charitable work," Greg repeated, nodding slowly. "Right. And how exactly do you fund this charitable work? Through your Netflix deal? Your Spotify contract? Or maybe the book where you aired your family's dirty laundry to the highest bidder?" Harry's face flushed red. "That's completely unfair. My memoir was about healing and sharing my truth." "Your truth," Greg said, emphasizing each word. "That's an interesting phrase. See, most people just call it the truth. But I guess when you're royalty, you get your own personal version of reality." "You clearly don't understand what I've been through," Harry shot back, his voice rising slightly. "Losing my mother at such a young age, dealing with the pressure of royal life, the constant media scrutiny." Greg's expression softened for just a moment. "Look, I'm genuinely sorry about your mother. That was tragic, and no kid should go through that. But Harry, that was over 25 years ago. At what point do you stop using that tragedy as an excuse for every decision you make?" The studio fell completely silent. Even the camera operators seemed to hold their breath. Harry's hands clenched into fists on his lap. "Excuse?" Harry's voice was barely controlled. "How dare you minimize what I've experienced? You have no idea what it's like to have your entire life dissected by the media, to have every move criticized." Greg laughed, actually laughed. "Are you serious right now? You're talking to a guy who gets death threats for making jokes about politicians? The difference is, I don't run crying to Oprah every time someone hurts my feelings." "This is ridiculous," Harry muttered, looking around the studio as if searching for an escape route. "What's ridiculous," Greg continued, "is that you've spent the last few years trashing your family on international television, signing multi-million-dollar deals to air their private conversations, and then acting surprised when people question your motives." Harry stood up abruptly, his chair rolling backward. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this character assassination." "Character assassination?" Greg's eyebrows shot up. "Harry, I'm just asking you to explain your own actions. If that feels like character assassination, maybe you should examine those actions a little more closely." The audience was completely riveted. This was not the typical late-night television fare they were used to. This was raw, unfiltered confrontation between two men with completely different worldviews. "You know what your problem is, Greg?" Harry said, pointing a finger at the host. "You're just another American who thinks he understands the complexities of the British royal family. You have no context, no understanding of the centuries of tradition and duty that come with my position." Greg stood up as well, matching Harry's energy. "And you know what your problem is? You want all the benefits of being a prince without any of the responsibilities. You want the title, the respect, the platform, but the moment someone holds you accountable, you play the victim card." "I am not playing victim," Harry snapped. "I'm standing up for my wife and my family." "By throwing your other family under the bus?" Greg fired back. "By accusing them of racism on international television without providing a single shred of proof? By writing a book that reveals private family conversations? That's your idea of protecting family?" Harry's face was now completely red. "You don't know what you're talking about. You weren't there. You don't know what Megan went through, what we both went through. You're right, I wasn't there, Greg conceded. But neither was your audience when you made those accusations. Yet you expected them to just take your word for it and destroy your family's reputation based on your feelings. My feelings? Harry's voice cracked with indignation. These aren't just feelings, Greg. These are documented experiences. The palace's own staff can verify what happened. Then why didn't they? Greg shot back immediately. If it's so documented, if it's so clear-cut, why hasn't a single palace employee come forward to corroborate your story? Why is it just your word against theirs? Harry opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. The studio audience could sense they were witnessing something unprecedented. I'll tell you why, Greg continued, pressing his advantage. Because you know that if you provided actual evidence, it could be investigated. It could be verified or debunked. And that's a risk you're not willing to take, because this was never about truth. It was about revenge. That's absolutely false, Harry stammered, but his confidence was clearly shaken. Everything I've said has been truthful and measured. Measured? Greg let out another laugh. Harry, you went on television and essentially called your family racist without naming names. You let the entire world speculate about which family member said what. How is that measured? Harry began pacing behind his chair, his composure completely unraveling. The institution failed to protect us. They hung us out to dry while protecting other members of the family who had done far worse things. What worse things? Greg demanded. Give me specifics. If you're going to make accusations, back them up. I can't discuss ongoing family matters, Harry replied weakly. Greg slammed his hand on the desk. You can't have it both ways. You can't spend 3 years airing your family's business to anyone with a microphone and then suddenly claim you can't discuss family matters when someone asks for proof. The audience was completely captivated. Several people in the front row had their phones out, recording what was clearly becoming television history. You're twisting my words, Harry said desperately. You're taking everything out of context. I'm using your exact words from your own interviews, Greg replied calmly. If they sound bad in context, maybe the problem isn't the context. Harry stopped pacing and faced Greg directly. You know what? I don't need to justify myself to you or anyone else. I am a member of the British royal family, and I deserve a basic level of respect. Respect is earned, Greg said firmly, and you can't demand it while simultaneously disrespecting everyone around you. You want to be treated like royalty? Act like it. I am acting like it, Harry insisted. I'm standing up for what's right. No, you're standing up for what's profitable, Greg corrected. There's a difference. Real royalty doesn't cash in on family drama. Real royalty handles their problems privately and with dignity. Harry's hands were shaking now. I tried handling things privately. The institution wouldn't listen. They forced me to go public. Nobody forced you to sign a Netflix deal, Greg said coldly. Nobody forced you to write a tell-all book. Nobody forced you to do multiple television interviews trashing your family. Those were choices you made for money. This conversation is over, Harry declared, starting to remove his microphone. No, Harry, sit down, Greg commanded with such authority that even Harry paused. You came on my show. You wanted this platform. Now you're going to answer the questions. I don't have to answer anything, Harry replied, but he wasn't moving toward the exit anymore. You're right. You don't have to answer, Greg agreed. But your silence is an answer too. Every question you dodge, every deflection you make, tells the audience exactly who you really are. Harry reluctantly sat back down, but his body language screamed defiance. Fine. What do you want to know? I want to know why you think your pain matters more than everyone else's, Greg said quietly. Your father lost his mother too, but he didn't spend decades using it as an excuse to hurt other people. Your brother lost his mother too, but he's not writing books about private family conversations. They had the support of the institution, Harry protested. I was left to figure things out on my own. You were left to figure things out in a multi-million-dollar mansion with a team of publicists, lawyers, and media consultants, Greg countered. Let's not pretend you were abandoned on a street corner. Harry's face contorted with frustration. You just don't get it, do you? The pressure, the expectations, the constant judgment. I get it perfectly, Greg said, leaning forward. What I don't get is why you think running away from responsibility and then attacking everyone who stayed behind makes you the hero of this story. Because they're not the ones who had to sacrifice everything. Harry shot back. Sacrifice what? Greg's voice rose. Your royal duties? The duties you were born into? The responsibilities that come with unearned privilege? Most people would call that accountability, not sacrifice. Harry stood up again, this time yanking the microphone off his shirt. "I'm done with this ambush. This isn't journalism, it's harassment. Asking you to explain your own public statements isn't harassment, Harry?" Greg called after him as palace security moved toward the stage. "It's what happens when you leave the bubble and enter the real world." "Get me out of here," Harry said to his security team, his voice barely audible over the stunned murmur of the audience. Greg remained standing behind his desk, watching as the prince, who had spent years demanding to be heard, suddenly couldn't handle being questioned. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said to the camera as Harry disappeared backstage, "that was Prince Harry, everyone. A man who wanted to tell his truth, right up until someone asked him to prove it.